My name is Anna. I was born in a small town by the sea, where the salty breeze was part of daily life, and the sound of waves was like a constant lullaby. My family was close-knit, 2 brothers, a loving mother, and a father who was a fisherman. From the earliest days I could remember, the ocean called to me. I would sit on the rocks near the shore for hours, watching ships sail off into the horizon, imagining all the places they were going. As I grew older, my longing to explore only grew stronger. I dreamed of traveling far beyond my small town to see the vastness of the world for myself. So when the opportunity came to work on a large ship that sailed the oceans, I did not hesitate. I packed my few belongings, said goodbye to my family, and stepped onto the deck of the ship. The ship was enormous compared to the small fishing boats I was used to. Its wooden planks creaked beneath my feet, and its sails billowed like giant clouds. The crew welcomed me warmly, though the work was hard. I learned to haul ropes, climb the rigging, and keep watch over the endless blue. Life at sea was a mixture of routine and surprise, days of peaceful sailing interrupted by sudden storms or curious visits from dolphins. At first, the ocean seemed calm and kind. The sun would rise in a blaze of orange, and the nights were filled with stars so bright I felt like I could reach out and touch them. I grew to love the rhythm of the waves and the salty taste of the air. But then one night, everything changed. Dark clouds gathered quickly, swallowing the stars and blotting out the moon. The wind howled like a wild beast, and the ship began to rock dangerously. The captain's voice cut through the chaos, ordering the crew to secure the sails and prepare for the storm. The waves grew monstrous, crashing over the deck with terrifying force. The ship groaned and shuddered, struggling against the tempest. I gripped the railing with white-knuckled hands, my heart pounding. The storm was like nothing I had ever experienced. Suddenly, a massive wave slammed into the side of the ship. I heard the sickening sound of wood splintering. Water flooded the deck, and the ship lurched violently. The captain shouted to abandon ship, but it was too late. The vessel began to break apart. In the chaos, I lost my footing and was thrown into the freezing water. The cold shocked my body, and the darkness swallowed me whole. I fought to stay afloat, gasping for breath, but the sea was relentless. Just as I felt myself slipping beneath the waves, a strong hand grasped my arm. I was pulled onto a small lifeboat, shaking and shivering. Around me, others clung to the same fragile vessel, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. We were adrift, alone in the vast ocean, with no land in sight. The storm passed, leaving a strange, eerie silence. The sky was gray, and the waves still, rolled steadily. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stay warm. The adventure I had dreamed of had turned into a desperate fight for survival. But even in that moment of fear and uncertainty, a spark of hope remained. I knew I had to be strong. The sea had taken everything from me, but I was still alive, and somehow, I would find my way home. The sun climbed higher, casting a pale light over the endless stretch of water. We drifted, silent and exhausted, the lifeboat rocking gently but steadily. I scanned the horizon, hoping for a glimpse of land or another ship, anything that might mean rescue. But there was only the vast empty sea. Hours passed, and the others around me began to whisper prayers or share quiet words of comfort. I learned their names slowly: Mark, a weathered fisherman; Elena, a schoolteacher; and Jonas, a young sailor barely older than me. We pooled what little supplies we had, some water, a few scraps of food, trying to ration carefully. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of gold and pink, I felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. I couldn't give up. Not yet. That night, we took turns keeping watch, eyes searching the darkness for any sign of help. When my shift came, I stared into the blackness, the stars above my only companions. I thought of my family back home, of the warm hearth and laughter I had left behind. I promised myself I would survive, for them and for myself. Days blurred, together. The ocean was both beautiful and merciless, its moods shifting without warning. We faced scorching sun and freezing nights, hunger gnawing at our insides. Yet through it all, the small group clung to hope. One morning, as the first light painted the waves in soft pinks and blues, a faint shape appeared far off on the horizon. At first, I thought it was a mirage, a trick of the sea and sky. But as it grew closer, the shape resolved into a ship, an enormous vessel cutting through the water toward us. We waved frantically, shouting and making noise, desperate to attract attention. The ship changed course, and soon we were pulled aboard. Relief and joy washed over us like a warm tide. The captain, a kind-faced woman named Miriam, listened carefully as we told our story. She assured us we would be taken to the nearest port, and that help was on the way for anyone still missing. As I stood on the deck, watching the sun rise over the water, I felt something new, a sense of possibility. The ocean had tested me, pushed me to my limits, but it had also shown me my strength, and this was just the beginning. The ship's deck was bustling with activity, a sharp contrast to the quiet desperation we'd known on the lifeboat. Crew members moved swiftly, offering blankets, hot drinks, and medical aid. I could feel the warmth of the cabin air, a comforting shield from the biting sea breeze. Captain Miriam introduced us to the ship's doctor, a calm man named Dr. Salim, who checked us over carefully. "You're lucky to be alive," he said, quietly, his eyes scanning our faces. "Dehydration, exposure, these are serious, but you'll recover." As the hours passed, we exchanged stories with other passengers and crew. The ship, named the Horizon, was on a long voyage, charting new trade routes across the ocean. Miriam explained the route would take us to a bustling port city several days away, where we could contact our families and arrange passage home. That evening, as the ship cut through dark waters beneath a blanket of stars, I found myself on the deck again, the cool wind in my hair. Elena joined me, her eyes reflecting the same mixture of relief and weariness I felt. "Do you think we'll ever really be okay after all this?" she asked softly. I hesitated, then nodded. "I think we have to believe that. We've survived the worst. Now, we get to choose what comes next." Jonas appeared, holding a small radio receiver he'd found in the ship's communications room. "I'm going to learn how to use this," he said with a shy grin. "Maybe I can help keep us safe next time." We laughed quietly, a sound so precious after days of silence. As the horizon sailed steadily onward, I realized that while the ocean was vast and unpredictable, it had brought us together and given us a second chance. The days aboard the Horizon passed in a steady rhythm. The crew treated us with kindness, but it was the small moments between official care that felt the most healing. Elena and I shared meals in the mess hall, where we met other passengers, traders, explorers, and a few scientists studying marine life. Jonas proved quick to learn, spending hours with the ship's communications officer. He eagerly absorbed every bit of radio protocol, his enthusiasm contagious. "Maybe I'll be a radio operator someday," he confided, like a lifeline for others out at sea. Captain Miriam often joined our group, her presence steady and reassuring. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, she told us about her own journey, how she'd worked her way up from a deckhand to captain, fueled by determination and a love for the ocean. "It's not just the ship or the crew," she said, eyes glinting with pride. "It's the trust we build, with each other and with the sea." Nightfall brought quiet reflection. On deck under the stars, I caught myself watching the horizon, the place where water met sky, thinking about how fragile life could be, and how much courage it took to keep moving forward. Elena nudged me gently, breaking my reverie. "We've come through the storm," she said softly. "Now we have to find our new path." I smiled, knowing she was right. The future was uncertain, but together, we'd face it head-on. Weeks passed, and the horizon approached a distant island, a small outpost known for its welcoming harbor and fresh supplies. The relief among the passengers was palpable. After so much uncertainty, land felt like a promise of safety and new possibilities. As the ship docked, Captain Miriam addressed us. "We've weathered the storm together, but this is just the beginning. The world beyond this island holds many challenges and many opportunities." Jonas grinned, clutching his new radio operator's badge. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." Elena and I stood side by side, watching as families reunited and strangers became friends. We didn't know what the future held, but we knew we had the strength to meet it, shaped by the trials we'd endured and the bonds we'd formed. The sea behind us was vast and mysterious, but ahead, the horizon promised new adventures. Together, we stepped forward into the unknown, ready to write the next chapter of our lives.